Well, Yankees fans, that was a rough one. Game one of the ALDS, Yankees go down in embarrassing fashion, 10-1 to the Toronto Blue Jays in Toronto. I'm Ryan Sampson. That's Dan Martin, our New York Post baseball columnist and writer. That was an ugly one. I'll start off, Dan. Your initial reaction here. What were your takeaways from the Yankees just absolutely getting embarrassed here?
Well, Ryan, my biggest takeaway is that it's just one game. It looks bad. 10-1 is rough. They finished very poorly. They got a terrible start from Luis Heel. The offense didn't really show up, wasted some chances, but really it's one game. I think it was obviously the worst matchup of the series on paper for the Yankees, just because the Blue Jays have been off for a week, so they were able to start Kevin Gausman, who they wanted to start. The Yankees were forced to go with their number 4 starter, Luis Heel, because of playing the Red Sox. You roll the dice there. You hope Luis Heel returns to form from last year, a Rookie of the Year. He didn't. And then, I'd say my biggest concerns off of this one are Luke Weaver. He just doesn't look good. He's faced 6 guys in the postseason. They've all reached base. I hate to keep bringing it up. Aaron Judge, he had a double there at the end, but he had a chance there. Bases loaded, strikes out. Huge turning point of the game. Not all on him, but man, that was a spot where you could silence a lot of people in that situation. Get the Yankees the lead. He didn't. He strikes out on a splitter that's out of the zone on a 3-2 pitch. Doesn't make a great throw to third base. I know people said it looked good, but and now we're all experts on how hard he throws, including myself. So I'm looking it up. 90 miles an hour is his average throw, but that's the type of throw that you'd want to be above average. Trying to get a guy out of third base. So look, they've got Max Fried tomorrow against a rookie. Frankly, another concern, they've lost all but one game at Rogers Center this year. So they've got to win one game there now to get past this round, because they're playing their game 2. They have to, figure out a way to win there. They have to win their game 2 there or game 5. So it's, Greg Joyce, our Yankee writer, called it the House of Horrors for them this season. And it certainly was today, more than ever before. But I would say don't panic whether they lost today 2-1 or 10-1. They're a resilient team. They lost game 1 to the Red Sox. No team, including this postseason, outside of the Yankees, has lost the first game of the wild card series and come back to win a best of 3 with this format. So they did that. There's no reason to believe that they can't win 3 out of the next 4 games. But if you want to shake your head at a few things here today, you can, because this was not a pretty way to start.
No, it definitely wasn't a pretty way to start. And I think you summed up a lot of the points that I wanted to highlight here. The first being, the difference in this game really was a matter of who took advantage of the bases loaded opportunity that they had. Judge had the bases loaded, nobody out. And to be honest with you, Dan, his approach didn't seem great. And I didn't love the Yankees' approach. We can talk about it a little bit at the plate against Gausman overall, being very aggressive early on in the count. But with Judge, he swings at a pitch that was clearly a ball 4, even out of the hand of Gausman, never was going to be a strike. And I haven't seen Aaron Judge swing at a strike like that, a ball like that, probably since his rookie year in 2017. Do you get a sense that maybe this is starting to build? Because the narrative is out there about Judge in October. We even heard, I believe Joe Davis mentioned in the broadcast, he strikes out at a 40% clip in October. It's crazy. His batting average is in the 100s. So do you think this is starting to stack on Judge, the October narrative?
I think it has for a while now. I mean, the turning point in his postseason career was 2018. He homered 3 games in a row. He was a good postseason player, maybe great. I don't remember exactly what the numbers were, but they beat the Red Sox in that round. One of the games, the last game at Fenway Park, he walks out with New York blaring out of the stereo, which was very uncharacteristic for the Yankees and for him. And man, he has not hit in the postseason since then. He had, I think, went 4 for 11 in the ALDS. So that's fine, but no real damage no extra base hits. Today he had a hustle double there, but that's not what you're looking for from Aaron Judge. You're looking for what Vlad Guerrero did or
Yep.
Alejandro Kirk did. You're looking for a big difference. So look, it's a narrative. They don't like to talk about it. They the Yankees get defensive about it, whether it's Aaron Boone or Aaron Judge. But this is not going to help. Whether I get it, he had 2 hits today, and he did not lose the game by himself. But if you're looking to change the narrative, this is not going to do it.
No, it wasn't. And that was, again, a grand opportunity. And when you look at it, the only run the Yankees manufactured was during that sequence where Judge strikes out, Bellinger gets the walk. And then again, Ben Rice comes up. And I think he looks a little overmatched now ever since that home run he hit. He's been going through it a little bit since these last 2 games. I think you see Bellinger walk on 4 straight pitches. I wish Ben Rice would have taken that first pitch. Goes another ball. It feels like he's pressing a little bit now too. It's just when you have that bases loaded opportunity, nobody out, and Judge, Bellinger, Rice, and Stanton, and you can only muster 1 run, Dan. That's a big issue of why you're not going to win this baseball game.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bad game, a bad inning, a bad sequence. But I will say, Kevin Gausman's a pretty good pitcher, and he was on. So sometimes that happens. A good pitcher can beat a good lineup. I hear what you're saying about the aggressive approach. Didn't really work. They only forced him to throw, I think, 50 pitches in the first 5 innings. They did get him out in the 6th because, the Blue Jays were aggressive with their bullpen. That didn't help. So, yeah, I'm sure if they had to do it over again, maybe be a little bit more patient. Definitely the Ben Rice at bat. You need to take a pitch there. Not a great matchup for him. I don't know if he's pressing or not. He's still a young player. This is his first real experience in the postseason. Might have been a tough matchup for him with Gausman with the splitter. I wouldn't go crazy overall with what he's done, but that was just a pitcher rising to the occasion, and the Yankees not. The Judge that 3-2 swing didn't look great from Aaron Judge. You would like to think that after the Bellinger walk, that would kind of spark the inning again. It didn't. So, look, even after that inning, it's 2-1. You've got Gausman out of the game. You think maybe
you have a chance.
More of a bullpen game.
Yeah,
that didn't help them. And then, Fernando Cruz has been good. He gives it up, and then Weaver implodes. What's unfortunate for the Yankees is, once they get Heel out of the game, Tim Hill and Duvall are just lights out.
Yeah.
So you kind of waste that performance of both of those guys. Hill's durable. He's good. You weren't sure what you were going to get from Duvall because he's been, he was terrible early on.
Yeah, he gave you 2 innings tonight.
Yeah. I mean, he was lights out. So after the 6th inning, you're looking at it, you're like, wait, Luis Hill kind of blew up on us, but we're through 6. We've only given up 2 runs. We haven't used any of our high leverage guys, really. I mean, you can argue that Tim Hill might be, but you would take that for the most part, and then just things fell apart. I think I would, baseball's funny, but certainly the Yankees are aware of what we just talked about. You've got bases loaded. It's 2-0, then it's 2-1. They think that they're going to get back in the game. They probably think they're going to have a 5-run inning. It doesn't happen. It's deflating for everyone. So that might have been an impact, but you just don't know. This time of year, it's tough. Anytime you go to the bullpen, you just don't know really what you're going to get from anyone.
Yeah.
So you're rolling the dice there. That Boone rolled the dice by getting Luis Heel out of the game in the 3rd inning.
I thought that was really aggressive by Boone to say I need a pull.
It was. I mean, he on the broadcast they were saying they thought Heel was coming around, but Boone said later when they interviewed him during the game, he just wasn't getting wasn't locating his pitches, wasn't executing well enough. So they did what they thought they had to do, and clearly you can't argue with that because it worked. It worked perfectly. And like I said, they got where they wanted to be. You're down 2-1. You're in the 6th inning. That's when it's Luis Heel versus Kevin Gausman in Toronto. That's a pretty good
every time as a fan and also the team. And I think, Dan, you had highlighted before about Luke Weaver. So look, you said it, 6 batters he's faced this postseason, he has not recorded an out. Am I crazy to say as a fan, you cannot trust Luke Weaver right now until it's in a pressure situation? I mean, he's clearly doesn't have it right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other issue is that he hasn't had it really for a while. He was such a huge part of last year's team, of their playoff run, dominant, took over as closer, did everything they asked of him. This year, it just hasn't been the same throughout the year, inconsistent. And now, he's just a guy that if it's a lopsided game, you throw him in for an inning and maybe try to get him back on track. Certainly not tomorrow, but maybe at home. But yeah, it's got to be the right spot, because you can't look at him as Luke Weaver right now. You have to look at him as a guy who's lost and, way, way, way down on the totem pole in terms of who you would go to in a big spot.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. This one stinks, man. It's very reminiscent of Game 1 of the Red Sox, where they had the bases loaded in the ninth, nobody out, and they still don't get that. They don't get a run there.
Right.
And tonight feels very similar in the fact that, like you said, the sixth inning, you got your horses, you got your guys you want up at the plate. You wouldn't want anyone else besides Judge, Stanton, Bellinger, Rice up at the plate in that situation, and they just can't muster more than one run. Dan, going forward, like you said, the Yankees are facing a rookie pitcher in Savage tomorrow. They have their ace, Max Fried, on the mound. Is this a must-win for the Yankees tomorrow in Toronto? It's only a best-of-5 here.
I mean, I would say so, yeah. Just what you said, you've got today you had the worst matchup you could have. Tomorrow you have the best matchup you can have. You've got Max Fried, who's had one of the top 3-4 seasons in baseball for a starting pitcher, against a guy who I think has made 3 starts in the majors, maybe 4. They like him. He's good. He's a good prospect. But and we saw what Cam Schlittler did for the Yankees.
Yep.
Yes, it's a must win. You can't have Max Fried lose a game, go down 0-2 to the stadium. Could they find their way back from that? Yeah, but I mean, tomorrow would be time to panic if they don't turn it around. Tonight is not. Tomorrow they need to win, but that's why you sign Max Fried to an 8-year, $218 million contract for games like this. And this is why, a lot of people like the Yankees' chances in a series like this, because they have a deeper rotation. The Blue Jays are banged up. That's why they have to go with this inexperienced rookie in Game 2, because Bassett is out and Max Scherzer is out and wasn't pitching that great anyway. The Blue Jays are going with a rookie probably in Toronto, so he doesn't have to deal with Yankee Stadium, that atmosphere. So they need Max Fried to be Max Fried. They lost their first game with him pitching in the postseason, but he pitched great. He did everything they could have asked. If he does that again tomorrow, I have to believe the Yankees are going to score more than 1 run, and they'll be okay. But yeah, you need Max Fried to be Max Fried tomorrow, not to settle their nerves, because I don't think they're going to be that rattled by this, even though the score got out of hand.
Yeah,
but, that's partially just not high leverage situations. Paul Blackburn, struggling there in the 8th and the 9th inning. So when we were asking questions after Game 1 of the wild card round, Aaron Judge said, we'll be fine. And then when they won, he said, you didn't believe us. I told you we'd be fine. So I'm sure he's saying the same thing tonight, and they have every reason to believe that it will be fine. But yeah, it's a bit of a gut punch to go up to Toronto, where you've had problems all year long, and to get smacked around like this is not a good start, but not devastating.
It's not devastating, and like you said, if things don't fall apart here at the end and they can punch through more than 1 run, it feels like if this would have been a way different game, you probably had a really good chance to win the game as well. One thing I want to ask you about the offense as well, besides Judge, Giancarlo Stanton. We saw him have the big hit, in Game 3 in the Red Sox, but before that, he was 0 for 8 in the Red Sox series. He goes 0 for 4 again tonight. It feels like the Yankees really need to get him going too. He was such an X factor for them the last couple postseason runs, obviously, being the force he is in the lineup. Can he be that factor for them tomorrow? Like, it feels like if Judge is not going to be Judge, you got to rely a little bit more on Giancarlo Stanton to be what he's been in the postseason recently.
Yeah. I don't think he looks that bad. I don't want to sound like Aaron Boone's, who says everyone looks fine no matter what's going on. But when Giancarlo Stanton is struggling, slumping, looking bad, nobody looks worse, right? When
right.
he's missing pitches by 2 feet, I don't see that right now. In the Red Sox series, he hit a couple balls, 115, hit him on the ground, which is not good. It's not an excuse, but I don't think he's that far off. It was weird that ball didn't go out. You never see that from him.
Never seen that
against the Red Sox, between a ball going that hard and not leaving the stadium, and then him misjudging it to that extent. So I think he's going to be okay. But yeah, they need him to be better. They need almost everyone to be better offensively, except for Anthony Volpe, who we pulled our hair out about all year, and now he's proving himself to be a very dependable postseason player. He obviously turned it around there after the cortisone shot in the regular season and finished strong, but he looks just like he did last October, hitting the ball hard, playing a good shortstop. So that's a good sign, that they seem to have straightened him out, or he's straightened himself out, and that they might have a guy who's going to be inconsistent during the regular season, but who's going to answer the bell pretty much regularly this time of year, which is vital if you're going to be, the shortstop for the Yankees. So maybe this will, the postseason is far from over, but his performance through the first handful of games here in his second postseason, that's matching the last year's postseason, maybe that relaxes him a little bit. Maybe that takes some of the heat off of him next year if he's up and down. But he looked pretty good. But yeah, look, the Yankees, we talk about Judge and Stanton. That's what separates this offense from other offenses. That's why they led the majors in homers with 274, 244, whatever it was. They hit a ton more home runs than anyone else in the majors. Those two guys one of them certainly needs to do something. And they haven't. I'd be more concerned about Judge than I am about Stanton, because Stanton, all of a sudden, he makes one tiny little adjustment, and those hard ground balls turn into 420-foot home runs. We haven't seen that from Judge. Maybe this double, the 2 hits and the double that he had for Judge, maybe that does get him going. But his arm isn't right. I don't know. It didn't affect him towards the end of the season, but we saw tonight that the Blue Jays took advantage of that. Like the Red Sox did as well. I would expect that to continue to be the case in situations on ground base hits to right, with the guy on first taking the extra base, consistently going to third. So there are legitimate questions. Not so much that they can't overcome them, but look, they want to win a World Series. So if you're not going to get anything out of Luke Weaver, if Judge isn't going to be Judge,
Juan Soto's not bailing you out right now. That's the thing. So that's right. That's why you're saying you're not worried about Stanton so much. You need Stanton to be Stanton in the playoffs if Judge is not going to be Judge.
Yeah, and you're not playing the Guardians and the Royals. So,
yes.
Although I will say that the Blue Jays, one of the things that's been a criticism of theirs is that they have big expectations regularly and they fall short. This year they managed to hold off the Yankees, to their credit, to win the division, get the top seed in the American League, but they hadn't won a playoff game, I think, since 2016. They've only made the playoffs 3 times. Since then, they got swept. So, I guess that's another tough pill for the Yankees to swallow. They've given them more confidence than they already had. I'd be worried about Vlad Guerrero if I'm a Yankee fan, because he obviously loves playing against the Yankees, hitting against the Yankees, and he showed it tonight. Probably the most surprising thing to me is that he made that diving play at first base and turned it into a double play. I expect him to do what he did with the bat, but not with the glove. But yeah, if he gets rolling, Alejandro Kirk is just one of those guys that you don't know how he does it. And I looked at the numbers. His numbers, nothing special. But I don't know. I feel like he's always doing something against everyone. Anytime you watch him, he's doing something good. And today he was great. So you don't want to give the Blue Jays reason to believe. And they gave him a little bit tonight. Max Fried can take a lot of it away tomorrow. And then you feel a lot better going home with Carlos Rodon on the mound, for Game 3. But you have to do it. You have to quiet down Vlad Guerrero. Yeah, you can't let Alejandro Kirk beat you. So it doesn't matter if it's 2-1 tomorrow and Judge, doesn't get the big hit, even if it's Trent Grisham with a bleeding single to left or whatever to win the game. You just have to win tomorrow, and then you figure it out when you get home. But yeah, you talked about the narrative of Aaron Judge, the narrative of his postseason struggles. That's going to continue until he does something to turn that around. The bullpen, the high leverage guys looked fine in the last series. So you can,
without Luke Weaver, though, you're going to be doing this without Luke Weaver pretty much, it feels like, because I don't think Boone can go back to him right now in this series. You know what I mean?
Like I agree, but maybe Camilo Doval maybe he's Luke Weaver now.
Yeah, and you were hoping Fernando Cruz maybe earns more opportunities. I mean, it stinks he gave up the hit tonight, and you're like, he was laboring a little bit. It feels like this team needs their stars to perform, right? Like that's how it's been all year for them. And the biggest guys, like you hammered on home, are Judge and right now Weaver. Those two guys are killing them right now. And I know you're saying don't panic. I'm trying not to, but it doesn't look great right now today. It doesn't feel great heading into a Game 2. I do feel confident the fact that the Yankees have the pitching matchup advantage in Max Fried to this rookie is Savage. But I've seen a lot of Yankees lineups struggle against rookie pitchers because they haven't faced them much. So I'm begging you, Dan, call Greg, call Joel, tell these guys they got to tell the lineup, start taking pitches. Don't let the rookie settle in and just swing on the first pitch and try and jump on it, because it feels like they're getting this MO and scouting report. I know you know this. They're getting the scouting report from the coaches saying, hey, this guy loves throwing first strike pitches. Jump on the first fastball you see, and if it's in the strike zone, swing. The Yankees just aren't hitting that first pitch. They're not hitting it well, right? Like they're attacking it, but they're just constantly hitting the ground outs, constantly hitting the pop-ups. So it feels like the approach, they're not making the opposing starters work. And I'm tired of seeing a Gausman and a guy like last round in Crochet just retire 10 to 17 batters in a row in the lineup. And before you know, it's like, oh my God, we're down 2 runs in the 8th or 9th inning,
Right. I mean, Crochet is, arguably the best pitcher in baseball. Gausman is a very good starting pitcher, experienced. I went back and looked. He didn't have a lot of postseason success until today, but he's good. I got to believe they can figure out a way to go up against this rookie. He's not Paul Skeens tomorrow. I hear what you're saying about they've had difficulties with rookie pitchers and facing them. They don't, they shouldn't have to score 5 runs tomorrow. They should only have to score 3. So I like their chances against a guy who's made 3 major league starts. It's hard to shut down this Yankee offense 2 days in a row. So I think for one game, they'll be okay tomorrow. The bigger picture, the things that we're worried about, if you're a Yankee fan, that those are legitimate things. But in terms of what to look for in Game 2, I would look for the Yankees to take advantage of a young pitcher who's not dominant. He's good, not dominant. They'll have a good approach. I'm sure they'll have learned some lessons from tonight. And then they're just going to hand the ball to Max Fried. I think that's what, when you go to bed tonight, that's what you think about. You're like, we signed Max Fried for a game like this, pitching on the road, pitching, a left-handed guy. Maybe that throws Toronto off. Everything went Toronto's way today. That's not going to happen tomorrow. So that makes you feel good as a Yankee fan. What doesn't is the fact that their bullpen is a little bit limited. And yeah, you need the stars to slug. So does everyone, though, right? I mean, the Blue Jays won today because Guerrero was Guerrero. The Yankees need that to happen. He hadn't been in the postseason until today. His numbers in his brief playoff career until today were atrocious. So you hope you didn't unlock something there, and then all of a sudden he doesn't go on a tear. But the Yankees have too much talent to not come back from this kind of defeat. There was no panic when they lost at home to Boston in the last round. I don't think there will be any tonight. So, yeah, you've got some question marks, but nothing I don't think that anyone didn't expect. That,
Right.
no one is shocked that the Yankees are down 1-0 in this series. They will be shocked if they're down 2-0.
All right. That's Dan Martin talking Yankees fans off the ledge like myself, and I'm sure a lot of you watching him here as well. Look, we're going to talk to Dan again tomorrow after game 2. If the Yankees can even up the series, if they're down 0-2, it's going to be a very dark show for me and Dan. I'm just telling you right now. But I appreciate you, Dan, for giving you time and breaking down this game. And we'll talk to you tomorrow and see what happens with Max Fried and the Yankees as they take on the Blue Jays for game 2 and trying to even up the